Hello everybody and welcome to this afternoon's session. We're very lucky to have two people here presenting for us today from IDP IELTS Australia. We have Jenny Osborne, who is the coordinator of the research program there, and Laurel Scott, who's the manager of the online practice test and who's been heavily involved in creating training tools for teachers of IELTS. So thanks to our presenters for today.
Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you, Sophie. I think I'm kicking off today, am I?
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, Jenny.
Yeah, and thank you to all our participants for your interest in IELTS and your participation in this webinar. As Sophie said, I'm the research coordinator for IDP IELTS Australia. Now, what does that mean? The three IELTS partners share a research program that provides annual funding for research. The website has the details if you're interested, and it's an annual grants program, been going for more than 25 years. And it's not the sort of research that you might be thinking of that Cambridge does in terms of developing the IELTS test. This is a grants program for people like yourselves, for academics and other stakeholders. And you can find information about it on the website. And you can also download for free from the website all the research reports that have been done over the years. Now, if you're a teacher, manager, academic or stakeholder, you should be interested in that. There'll be something there for you, I'm sure. Now, what Laurel is going to present grew out of a research study conducted a few years ago. And if you look at the slide, you can see more details. This research was actually conducted in Australian ELICOS centres, and you may have even been involved. It was conducted by Phil Chappell and some colleagues from Macquarie University. The title of the research project is in red towards the bottom of the slide. Now, what Phil was interested in looking at was teacher cognition of the test, that is, their knowledge of the IELTS test and their teaching practices. And he was particularly interested in the impact that that had on the IELTS prep courses that these teachers were running. Now, on the slide, you can see a summary of what he found. And I'll let you read that yourself, and then I'll make a couple of comments about that. You can see that there are reasons for concern here. IELTS Australia felt responsible for providing more resources to assist teachers and students as a result of this, and we shifted into top gear, and Laurel will continue the story. The outcome of which was the development of a whole series of resources for teachers and students. As you know, you're key advocates for the IELTS test. Your students depend on you, we depend on you, and you supply support, guidance, advice, and so on for students. So it's imperative that we provide you and the students with further information about IELTS. And so Laurel's going to go into a whole heap of resources that will hopefully make life far more successful and joyful for you and your students. Over to you, Laurel.
Thanks, Jenny. Just trying to find the little marker below. As Jenny said, the research findings were a little bit worrying in that teachers who were teaching IELTS and students who were experiencing the test were creating, I suppose, misinformation, misunderstanding, and therefore negative overall attitudes towards the IELTS test. And this causes confusion and frustration, not only for teachers, but also for their students. We had some teachers saying that the marking criteria is unfair, so they don't actually understand the assessment criteria and how it is applied to written and spoken performance. And so they feel that their students should have had a higher result possibly. Also, they were dismayed, I think, sometimes by maybe high scores that their students received when they did the test and didn't really understand why they were getting this particular score. Also, they felt that maybe IELTS is a money-making business because they allow students to do the test over and over again. And they also were unsure or didn't trust in the examiner's ability to assess either writing essays. This was direct feedback from Phil's research. Students also were concerned because there was no feedback given to them. So they got a certain band in maybe the writing or the speaking or reading test, and they didn't know why. And so they really need this feedback. And finally, they also felt that maybe the examiner didn't smile and therefore they got a low score. And there's all sorts of conversations happening within students, with students and teachers that cause these IELTS myths. And if you Google IELTS myths, you will find millions of them. It's actually quite interesting to read through some of them. Here are some of the most common ones, where they believe that examiners give a 6.5 on purpose so that you come back time and time again to try and reach a higher band. Also, they feel that the test centre you go to, that some are harder than others, and you will hear that directly. They won't, possibly in Queensland, they might not go to UQ, they'll go to Griffith, and then students at Griffith University will feel that they should go to UQ. So these are myths. The best one is if you dress really nicely on a test day, you'll get a high score, and you would be amazed at how many candidates turn up on a test day in a three-piece suit. So this misinformation can lead to myths. I'm trying to click to the next slide. There it is. And so IELTS has worked really hard to create tools for both students and teachers to try and clarify what assessment is all about and how students can actually improve and pass and get their achieved band score. So at present, we've got a lot of free online tools and also face-to-face tools, possibly not at the moment, but we have the IELTS Masterclass. This can be viewed online. You can also go to an actual Masterclass and it's held all throughout Australia. I usually present one once a month at UQ and it's attended by up to 200 students. And this gives a whole breakdown of what the test is all about. It gives them advice about the things to do and not to do and why they might be prevented from reaching that higher band. IELTS Advantage is another free online tool. Again, it is giving advice and tips about all parts of the test. It's an online, a 45-minute online webinar. The IELTS preparation course has been developed by Macquarie University, and if you buy a test at a certain test centre, I think it's IDP, you get one of these sections for free. I think it's about 25 hours worth of online preparation. Also, we have free IELTS computer delivered familiarization tests. Now, these FAM tests are to allow students or candidates to come in and just see what the different sections would be like and how you use the online tools to actually do the test. We also have paid tools, and these are things like IELTS writing and speaking coaching. So it's where a student has they can book 45 minutes to work with an IELTS expert who will go through a sample. Obviously, you have to pay for this. It could be a sample writing or sample speaking, and they will go through and they'll match your performance to the IELTS, the public band descriptors. IELTS Assist is another tool where they can pay. So this is for if you have students who are having constant issues, they can actually send in to IELTS Assist. Again, they can send in a sample of their work and get direct feedback on it. The IELTS preparation course I already mentioned with Macquarie University. These are the other three online sections. Finally, you can buy official IELTS practice materials. But these booklets have been around for a long time, which is why we felt, particularly after the research report that was done, we felt we needed to educate teachers more and give more material to, more updated material to students. Let's have a look at the next slide. Obviously, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat box. I hope you're not seeing all my messages popping up here. Research also showed that teachers demonstrated an overall lack of understanding of assessment criteria. How the test is delivered, they don't often know that there is a computer delivered option and that their students should be practicing typing in class rather than handwriting, even though we think that I suppose we all cringe to think that they're going to be writing everything online. But yes, computer delivered is in most countries in the world, all through Australia, and they might not get the option to write an essay on paper. So it is good to practice working with your students typing. Sometimes teachers don't understand how the tests are designed. That's what the question tasks mean and the actual task types. So if you're teaching IELTS reading or listening, you may not understand what true, false, not given actually means. So it's important that teachers understand this themselves before they actually teach it. Understanding IELTS writing tasks. This can also be, sorry, I've just flicked. This can also be difficult for teachers. If you're teaching task 1 academic, for example, and you don't identify the key features in a diagram, how do you expect your students to do it and therefore pass the task achievement part of this test? Finally, how tests are actually assessed by examiners. Understanding assessment terminology. So if, for example, students have rare subordination in their writing or in their speaking, it's impossible for them to get a band 4 and higher for grammatical range and accuracy. So understanding this terminology and how it is applied is a really important thing for teachers to have. So teachers need more official IELTS support, and so we created a teacher training program. Now, this is assessment focused, so we're not teaching you how to teach within the classroom, but we're giving you all the background information you need about assessment so you can then work with your students in a much more targeted way. So the focus area of these courses, and they're online, this is the link at the bottom. I think Sophie will send you all a list of links to all of these resources after this presentation. All you have to do is click on the link and register as a teacher, and you will be enrolled in the courses. There are 2 courses, a speaking course and a writing course. From experience, it's taking teachers around 8 to 12 hours, usually on average about 10 hours to do each course. And obviously you'll get continuing professional development points from English Australia. So it's a course well worth doing. So it's on understanding the IELTS speaking assessment criteria and the IELTS writing assessment criteria. IELTS assessment becomes more transparent. Teachers understand then why their students don't achieve their desired band score, and obviously it will enhance the teacher's performance and effectiveness as an IELTS teacher. Absolutely perfect for those general English teachers that want to move into the academic programs, into EAP or IELTS prep. It increases your IELTS test content and assessment terminology knowledge. You have to do terminology and all sorts of quizzes throughout the course in order to move from unit to unit. So you'll be forced to learn. And obviously, as I mentioned before, it gives you professional development. We also need to support students by making by giving them feedback. So something they've asked for a long time. So we've worked very closely with Cambridge to deliver online practice preparation material to students. It focuses obviously on test practice, test preparation. Your students can do these tests at home. They can bring in the feedback report to you. If you have done the teacher training program, you will understand completely what the feedback report then tells the student. So if the student has never looked at the IELTS assessment criteria, it may not be as worthwhile to them as someone who has not really prepared for the test properly. The feedback report gives them speaking and writing criteria feedback, and they'll get an indicative band score for all 4 parts of the test and an overall band score. And this is really wonderful because it means they're not wasting $355 on doing an IELTS test. They can buy this online for $65. They can buy, if they buy more, they can get it at a cheaper price, and they could do this test at home. They will get feedback. I'll give you an example of specific feedback. They don't use paragraphs in task 2. You would be amazed how many people write an essay and don't use paragraphs. They will automatically, according to the public band descriptors, get a band 5 for cohesion and coherence because paragraphing is inadequate. So they are told this, and then they'll know that this is where they made an error. They might have got 7.577, which would give them an overall band of 6.5. So it's a really wonderful way for the students to find out what their major errors are, and also to get an indication of what band score they are. Now, in the last couple of months, I've been very busy writing a lot of blogs on IELTS essentials. And you can see here, there's just a little segment here. I've written blogs on writing task 1 and on writing task 2. Simple things like how to write a letter for the general training test. And all of these blogs are written where there's a focus on the assessment criteria and on students satisfying the assessment criteria. So reaching the positive descriptors of each of those bands. So for example, in the letter writing, we focus on using the correct tone, on addressing all the bullet points, on presenting a letter with correct letter format. And because we don't write letters anymore, I think all of us would learn from reading through this blog. Also, there's a focus on how to reach a band 7 and higher in task achievement. This is where you have to look at a visual of some sort and then present a report for task 1. A lot of, I think teachers struggle with this. I know I did myself when I first was teaching EAP. So it's a good blog to look at. You can pull up these blogs in your class and you can work through them. It could be a warmer, or it could be, you could plan your whole lesson around it if you wish. We've also got blogs, and we've converted them into little videos on the mistakes preventing you from getting to a band 7, or maybe 7 steps to a band 7, 8 steps to a band 8. We like the whole alliteration. Task 2, I think Sophie might have control now.
You just dropped off there for a minute, Laurel, but you're back now, so you can take control again.
I have NBN, so I'm either on or I'm off. So if we have a look at the next slide, it shows some of the YouTube clips. So we've got at the moment. I'm just wondering, am I still there, Sophie?
You are, yep.
Yeah. Okay, we have four videos at the moment. Teachers are very welcome to pop one of these up and use it as a warmer to a task to class. It goes through the mistakes you might make that prevent you from getting a band 7 or a band 8. And Sophie will now show us the second video here, mistakes holding you back from a band 8, just to give you an idea of what the videos look like. And I apologize in advance for the background music. Thanks, Sophie.
Okay, just waiting for the
Here it
video to
comes.
start playing.
Looking forward to the music.
Oh no, it's not good. And I think they were having a bit of fun. They tried to make the presenter look like me because I had these big earrings and the glasses.
Never mind.
Thanks, Sophie. So that is just, am I back on?
You're back on, Laurel.
Thank you. So that's just a short example of what the videos are like, and students do enjoy them because they're short and simple. They can stop and they can read through. They can read through the tasks. There's lots of examples of different tasks. Let me move to the next one. So how can these tools actually be used in class or with teachers? Teachers obviously can use the IELTS teacher training program for professional development sessions. You can use classroom activities using the band descriptors because now you understand the terminology within them. You can, cut them up and try and match certain bands. So for example, if you don't present all your key features in task 1, that will match a band 4. Also, you can use the Progress Check practice test that can be used within the class or in a language lab. Currently, we have quite a few schools around the world who are using the Progress Check test as an entry or exit test to allow your students to move from intermediate up to advanced or whatever. So rather than using your own school test, you can buy these in bulk and use the test within class. Also, you can encourage your students to do a progress check practice test, bring in the feedback report, and then you can go through it with them and explain to them why they've not reached the band they want to reach. Finally, students can use the band descriptors themselves once they understand why they're not achieving. What does inadequate paragraphing mean, for example? Or what does it mean to use a range of phonological features? You can do this as part of one of your PRON classes. They can then practice testing in the classroom or practice at home. You can encourage your students to go to a masterclass, particularly before they do the test. And again, obviously, they can get more test practice at home. At the moment, we have over 2,500 teachers around the world using the teacher training program. And they've given really, well, obviously, it's a free course, so they're delighted with this. Also, you will get an official IDP IELTS certificate that you can use you can put it on your CV. I've seen some of them out there on LinkedIn already. And you can read some of the feedback they've given. It's overall, it's been very positive. There is an assessment focus on it rather than practical things you can do in the classroom, but it will certainly teach teachers about certain grammar areas, and particularly in the speaking course, there's a lot of good examples of different phonological features that you may not necessarily do yourself within your normal day-to-day teaching. So that's basically it, Sophie, and I'm very happy to answer. And Jenny, I'm not sure if she's dropped off, coronavirus maybe, but I'm very happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Great. So if you do have questions, please type them into the chat box.
And thank you to everybody that came this afternoon.
No, thank you.
All very quiet.
Sometimes the questions just take a minute or two to come through.
The videos have been a hit. We've had over 20,000 views. So I think students really like particularly the band 8 ones, because they're looking for between a 7 and an 8. And that is quite difficult to get, because if you have a look at the band descriptors, it says that the majority of sentences need to be error-free, and that's actually quite difficult.
Okay, so we have a question that's come through. Will IDP continue making videos for various bands? Do they provide a feedback form to give suggestions for future videos?
If you click on the links, and I think Sophie's going to send them out. If you click on the links and view the YouTube, you can just Google the titles I gave you, and the YouTube videos will pop up. And there's a comment box there, and we've got a very active content writers team who they're delighted to get any ideas, and then if I work with them, then we can then get on to the next one. So we'd love to get suggestions on what other bands. We felt we needed to give these 7 and 8 bands because there's some negative feedback on the fact that they believe IELTS examiners are not giving a band 7 on purpose, because a lot of universities require 6.5 or 7 or even an 8 for certain courses. If you want to be a registered teacher, for example, you need a band 8 in your speaking test. So all you have to do is leave a comment or go onto the IELTS Essentials Facebook page, and again you can message the content team, the media team, and they can communicate with me.
Okay, wonderful. So I think that's it for questions. Thanks to everyone for coming along today. And I'm sure everyone's extremely busy at the moment, so it was great that you could make it to the live session. I'll email you the video links and also a link to the recording and the slides of today's session. Thank you also to Jenny and Laurel for presenting for us. We really appreciate it. It was extremely interesting to hear about the research, and also I think the videos are an amazing resource for students and also for teachers to use in class, and it was great to be able to have them showcased today. So thank you very much, everybody.
Great. Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you everybody for coming. All right. Bye, Sophie.
Bye.